What is going on, Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star guide, and today I'm here with the full build guide for the character that is going to be rerunning in the second half of 3.3, being Aglaea. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you over her kin Eidolons, then I'll be taking you over her best Lightcone options, followed by that will be best Relic sets and Planar Ornaments, and then also Mainstat and Substat recommendations, and then at the very end, some team building / team idea options for you to run with her. This video has time codes, so if you need a specific section, you can directly check on what you want to skip to. And I also now have a full build guide for every single 3.3 character. So if you're interested in Hyacinth, the Herda, or Cypher, or now Aglaea, there is now a build guide for every one of them that you can check out. That will also be linked in the pinned comment below. That's all I want to say before I get into the video. If you guys found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new and haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content and guides. And let's get straight into the video. So Aglaea is a lightning character following the path of remembrance. Her basic tech is the generic deals damage to a designated enemy. Her skill is going to be a restore for the actual Memosprite she does have, which will be called Garment Maker. And if the Garment Maker is not already active, it will summon it instead and will immediately make the unit take action. Her ultimate will first either summon Garment Maker if it's not already on the field. If it is already on the field, then it will restore Garment Maker's HP to max. The ultimate will also let Aglaea enter the Supreme Stance state and immediately take action. In that state provided by the ultimate, Aglaea will now be able to gain the speed boost from the Garment Maker's Memosprite talent, with each of the stacks that you can get increasing her speed by 15%, and will also enhance her basic attack. In this mode, you also will not be able to use skill, and Garment Maker will also be immune to crowd control debuffs. Garment Maker's own speed will be set to 100 at base, and if you do use the ultimate but you already have the Supreme Stance ultimate up, it will refresh the actual duration, and if Garment Maker does disappear during the ultimate, she will dispel that state. And as it did mention, it does enhance her basic attack, so her basic attack is now an enhanced basic attack that will launch a joint attack and is also now blast. That will deal lightning damage equal to 200% of Aglaea's attack and 200% of Garment Maker's attack to that target, and also respectively deals lightning damage equal to 90% of Aglaea and Garment Maker's attack to adjusted targets, and that enhanced basic attack cannot recover skill points. For talent, Garment Maker does have an initial speed equal to 35% of Aglaea's speed and a max HP equal to 66% of Aglaea's max HP plus 720. And anytime Garment Maker is active on the field, Aglaea's attack will inflict something called Seam Stitch. And anytime you do attack an enemy that does have the Seam Stitch state, you can further deal additional lightning damage equal to 30% of Aglaea's attack to those enemies with Seam Stitch, and you can only have Seam Stitch take effect on the most recently afflicted target. Her technique allows Aglaea to immediately summon Garment Maker at the start of the battle, and will launch a forward joint attack, and once you do enter battle, you will regenerate 30 energy and deal lightning damage equal to 100% of Aglaea's attack to all enemies, and a random enemy will be inflicted with the Seam Stitch state. For the Memosprite skills specifically, the first one is the generic attack that you'll see most often from it, which will deal lightning damage equal to 110% of attack to one enemy and lightning damage equal to 66% of attack to adjacent targets. The enhanced or the speed stacking talent, as we most know it as, after attacking an enemy afflicted with Seam Stitch, increases this unit's speed by 55, stacking up to 6 times. When Garment Maker takes action, automatically uses Thorn Snare, prioritizing enemies under the Seam Stitch state. And there's two things you can know whether you are summoning or having Garment Maker be dispelled. If Garment Maker is summoned, this unit's action advances by 100%, and if Garment Maker disappears, regenerates 20 energy for Aglaea. For her bonus traces, her A2, while in her stance, both Aglaea and Garment Maker will gain a attack scaling based off her speed, equal to 720% of her speed plus 360% of Garment Maker's speed. Her A2 will allow any time the Garment Maker does disappear to retain a stack of the speed boost that the Memosprite talent does provide, and when Garment Maker will be summoned again, you can gain a corresponding number of speed boost stacks. And her A6 makes it to where Aglaea's energy will be regenerated to 50% going into battle if it was not already at 50%. For her Eidolons, her E1, the enemy afflicted with Seam Stitch will now take 15% increased damage, and anytime Aglaea or the Garment Maker does hit that person with Seam Stitch, you will regenerate an additional 20 energy. Her E2 allows Aglaea or the Garment Maker to gain stacks of Defense Ignore. Each stack does provide a 14% Defense Ignore, and will last until any unit other than Aglaea or Garment Maker uses an ability, which includes skill, basic attack, and ultimate. Her E4 will increase the speed boost effect provided by the Memosprite talent by 1, and anytime Aglaea does use an attack, can also make Garment Maker gain the speed boost effect from the Memosprite talent. And her E6 When Aglaea is in the Supreme stance or the ultimate state, both her and Garmentmaker will gain a 20% increase to their lightning res pen, and when Aglaea's speed values in battle is greater than 160/240/320, the joint attack damage dealt, or the enhanced basic attack, will have its damage dealt increased by 10%/30%/60%. Taking a look at the best Lightcone options for Aglaea, her far and none best one is going to be her own signature Lightcone, which does provide the wearer a 12 speed increase to base speed, and after the wearer and the Memosprite's attacks, the wearer gains a stack of Brocade. Each stack of Brocade increases the wearer and their Memosprite's crit damage by 9%, stacking up to 6 times. And once reaching max stacks, each Brocade stack will additionally increase basic attack damage dealt by 9%. This makes Aglaea way easier to build as opposed to any other option in the game, just because the power of increasing base speed is really good, because then this gets further multiplied by other speed multipliers, makes it significantly easier just to hit 160 plus speed at your base build, and so on. So the 12 base speed it does give is super valuable. And now Aglaea does attack a bunch as a very fast built character, so stacking the Brocade is going to be super easy. So once you do have it fully stacked, you get a massive crit damage increase of 54% crit damage, which is great because you sacrifice a lot of crit rolls for speed in her Relics. So this makes up a big portion of that, and you also very easily stack it up to 6 times. And now at the same time, you'll be gaining up to a 56% increase to your basic attack damage dealt, which is Aglaea's full source of damage. As she obviously doesn't deal ultimate damage or skill damage, it's purely basic attack damage, which is why her signature Lightcone is far and none her best option. Another great option for her is the Battle Pass Sweat Now Cry Less Lightcone, which provides the wearer 12% crit rate, and when the wearer's Memosprite is on the field, increases the damage dealt by the wearer and their Memosprite by 24%. And at S5, it is a 20% increase to crit rate with a 36% increase to damage dealt for the wearer and their Memosprite. Once again, as you do sacrifice a lot of rolls for speed, this helping you get good crit rate is going to be really nice, as it's going to be easier to balance a crit ratio while also focusing on whatever speed you are going for. And this also does give you a very easy big increase to damage dealt. 36% is a really good increase, and the only requirement is just to have the Memosprite on the field, which is super easy to have. So free access to a good amount of crit rate and free access to damage dealt is why it's another great option. The last option is going to be the 3-star Reminiscence Lightcone, which I will display at S5 since it is a 3-star. When the Memosprite turn starts, the wearer and the Memosprite gain a stack of Commemoration. Each stack increases damage dealt by 12% for 4 times, and anytime the Memosprite will disappear, it will remove the Commemoration stacks from the wearer and the Memosprite. Very easy to once again stack up, as the Memosprite for Aglaea is very fast. On top of that, you also do launch joint attacks. This gives you up to a 48% increase to damage dealt for the wearer and their Memosprite, so it is free damage dealt. Unfortunately, it doesn't provide anything like crit or speed, but it is the other axis that is going to give you a good damage dealt increase. But it is the only other Lightcone that's really going to give you anything that doesn't actually end up expiring. The only condition is to not let your Memosprite expire. So if you don't have the Battle Pass Lightcone, and you especially don't have your signature Lightcone, you can use this one. Those are the only 3 options I recommend. I'm not recommending anything else such as Genius's Greetings, because Genius's Greetings, while the effect is good with the attack percent increase and the basic attack damage dealt, the reason I don't recommend these kind of Lightcones is because of the turn limit. Usually this would be no problem and it would be very easy to actually deal with. The reason I don't recommend this or any other turn-based Lightcone for Aglaea is just because she gets so many turns. Since you're going up to 270 plus speed depending on whatever build you are doing in battle, it's very easy to expire these actual buffs that you do get that are turn limited, with the exception of in-battle buffs such as something like Sunday Skill, because there's ways where you do have 2 actions per Sunday Skill, so you Sunday Skill, 2 actions, so you don't actually expire the full buff. But when it comes to Lightcones, you will very much expire them very quickly, which is why I only recommend either using your signature one, far or none, if not that, the Battle Pass one, since it doesn't have a turn limit, and if not that, the 3-star Reminiscence Lightcone. The other ones, they are based off turns, or they just don't straight up work good for her. When it comes to the best relic sets for Aglaea, the clear-cut best one is going to be 4-piece of the hero set. 2-piece provides a 12% increase to attack, and the 4-piece, while the wearer's Memosprite is on the field, increases the wearer's speed by 6%. When the wearer's Memosprite attacks, increases the wearer's and the Memosprite's crit damage by 30% for 2 turns. So the 2-piece is going to increase her overall damage as she does want to get attacked. You don't want to focus on it too much though, but it's still going to be an increase. The 4-piece does provide the wearer's speed, which Aglaea loves, just for the Where's Memosprite just being on the field. And when the Where's Memosprite does attack, which is once again very often with how fast Aglaea and Garment Maker is, you practically will have a permanent 30% increase to crit damage for both Aglaea and the Memosprite. So anytime you do crit with either or, it's going to do more damage than anything else. So with everything this actual relic set is providing, from the 2-piece to everything in the 4-piece, and how easy accessible it is for someone like Aglaea, is why it is her best in slot. If you're still farming for that and you do just happen to have a good 4-piece Musketeers option, this also does work pretty decently well. 2-piece also does increase attack by 12%, and the 4-piece increases the wearer's speed by 6%, and the damage dealt by basic attack increases by 10%. So same thing, 2-piece giving you attack is going to increase overall damage. This also does provide you 6% speed, so it's similar to the hero set, and also will increase basic attack damage, which is Aglaea's main source of damage. Unfortunately, the Garment Maker doesn't actually benefit from this, but Aglaea with the joint attack will, so that's why it's not completely wasted. It's mainly for the fact that honestly it gives you speed. The speed is the main thing, but the basic attack damage increase will still be felt, and so overall it is a good option you can use while you are farming for the hero set. Past that, it would be combining 2-pieces, so you can do something like 2-piece Scholar for the 8% crit rate, and then combine that with something like 2-piece of one of the attack percent increasing sets, or also combine it with 2-piece of the lightning set for 10% lightning damage. And if your speed rolls really are lacking, you could do 2-piece Hackerspace or 2-piece Relieved Ordeal for the 6% speed, but overall it's generally recommended to just get a 4-piece hero set. It's far and none her best. If not that, or you're still farming for it, then you can use Musketeer if you're a long enough player and just have good pieces laying around. Or just do 2-piece with 2-piece Scholar primarily, and 2-piece of one of the attack percent increasing ones, or 2-piece of the lightning set. And if you really need the speed, 2-piece Hackerspace or 2-piece Relieved Ordeal. For Planar Ornaments, her best one is going to be Bandana Amusement, which does increase the wearer's crit damage by 16%, and when a target summoned by the wearer is on the field, crit damage additionally increases by 32%. So this ornament practically just gives you a free 48% increase to crit damage, as it's very easy to always have the Memosprite and you want to always have the Memosprite on the field. So a free 48% increase to crit damage is going to be great. Anytime you do crit with Aglaea, it's going to do more damage, and is once again just very accessible, overall being her best in slot. Another great option for Aglaea is actually Glamoth. Provides 12% increase to the wearer's attack, and when the wearer's speed is equal to or higher than 135/160, wearer deals 12%/18% more damage. So this actually providing 12% attack, once again, is just going to increase overall damage, and Aglaea does go far above 160 speed in her ultimate, so if you're doing a slow Aglaea build, maybe you don't have enough rolls, once you are in your ultimate, you're going to have much more than 160, so the full 18% buff will be provided to Aglaea. Unfortunately, when it comes to these ornaments, they don't apply to Garment Maker specifically, but as Aglaea does get the buff and she does perform joint attacks, it still is going to be noticeable, and is why Glamoth is still a good option. Another good option is Rulin Arena, which does provide the wearer 8% crit rate, and when the wearer's crit rate reaches 70% or higher, damage dealt by basic attack and skill increases by 20%. It may be a bit difficult to get Aglaea to 70% or higher crit rate, but ideally you definitely do want to get that. On top of that, it does give you 8% crit rate for free, so that can help. And once you do have that requirement, you get a increase to her main source of damage, being basic attack. She doesn't do any skill damage, so you ignore the fact that it buffs skill as well, but for the fact that it does increase her damage for basic attack by 20%. So a free increase to her main source of damage is why it's another option you can use. For the main stats on the relics, for the body, you want to run crit rate or crit damage corresponding to which one you need more, which will usually always be crit rate. For the feet, this does depend. If you are doing a base speed Aglaea with a hyper speed Sunday, this is usually something you do with an E1 or higher Aglaea, then you would run attack percent. But for any other case, so if you're just trying to get her up to 160 plus speed or a certain breakpoint, for every other case you will run speed. For the orb, you want to do lightning damage, and for the link rope, you can do either attack percent, which will be her best for damage if you are able to always keep her in ultimate. So if you have Sunday ult helping you with that, and your E0 Aglaea and also Popo ult, if you are able to always stay in ultimate, then you want to run attack percent for the best results. But if you're E0 and you don't have Popo, you don't have Sunday or so on, and you struggle to stay in ultimate, you have to run energy regenerate. It's going to sacrifice her damage, but it will allow you to stay in ultimate, and if you're not in ultimate, you're not going to do any damage at all anyways. And then if you're E1 and so on, you practically always will be using attack percent. For the substats, first you want to prioritize speed depending on what kind of breakpoint you are doing. If you're doing base speed Aglaea, you can completely ignore the step, but if you're not, getting Aglaea to around 163 speed and having something like a Sunday at 135 speed is usually the most common. You can also do a -1 build technically, but it's not as effective. Usually you would either do a base speed Aglaea with a hyper speed Sunday, meaning you have Sunday at 160 plus speed, while having Aglaea at completely base speed, running attack percent boots for more damage. This is only really possible to do with a E1 plus Aglaea though. And then the next setup would be having Aglaea at 163 plus speed and then having your Sunday at 135 speed in order for Aglaea to get 2 actions before a Sunday skill. So you get 2 actions, Sunday skill, 2 actions, Sunday skill, and so on. Past that is your generic DPS stuff, so crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. Getting Aglaea from 80% or higher crit rate is going to be recommended. You're usually always pairing her with Sunday, so 80% crit rate is going to be 100%. So getting it close to 80% higher if you're not using Sunday is going to be your go-to. Then more crit damage rolls is going to be very much benefited. And then past that, more attack percent. So first, once again, prioritize your speed breakpoint, whatever you're doing. If you want to get the 2 action per Sunday skill, where you do double Sunday speed pretty much. Or if you're doing the base speed, then you ignore that part. And then you would just focus on your generic rolls, so crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. Now for some team building / team ideas. The first teammate is usually always going to be a want, and you practically never want to change this, is going to be Sunday. Sunday is perfect for Aglaea. He is her best partner by far, with the ability to buff the actual Memosprite and also give Memosprite another turn is just why he's so good. The energy especially is very, very helpful. Sunday is usually a character you definitely do not want to replace. Next slot would depend. You could run someone like Robin. Robin is fantastic for Aglaea. Tribi overall is the best option, but most likely Tribi you're already running on other teams maybe. But if your Tribi is free or you want to run the best Aglaea team, these two would be the best. And then the last slot would go sustain. So your best sustain option is going to be Popo. She is the best for Aglaea. But in this case, you would just use whatever you do have that is the best. You can use a shielder like Aventurine, but you want to note she can expire his shield relatively easily. So it is more advised to run a healer such as the Welt or Gallagher or Linksha and so on. But overall, Popo is going to be your best option. So with the sustain, this would be her best team overall. If you actually want to do sustainless, Aglaea can very easily do sustainless. You would just go ahead and sub out Popo for someone like Robin, or you could also sub them out for someone like RMC. Personally, I like using Robin more. This is my favorite Aglaea team to use. But yeah, if you are missing some of these, it would just depend on subbing out what you do have. Let's say you don't actually have Sunday or you're waiting for a rerun. You can use someone like Bronya. It's going to be a significant drop off, but it does work. If you don't have Tribi, you can very much use someone like, once again, you could use RMC. RMC is really good with Aglaea. If not RMC, you can also use someone like Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei also works really, really good with Aglaea as well. And if you are running a sustain, it does open a slot to be very easy because then you just slot in whatever sustain you are that is best. So again, Popo is the best option. You could use Linksha. You could use someone like Luocha. You could use someone like Gallagher as well if you do have him built and available. But I'll just put Popo for simplicity's sake. So those are kind of how you want to go about subbing your teammates. But overall, if you do have Sunday available, then I definitely recommend just taking him and using him. The difference of having Sunday with Aglaea and not having Sunday Aglaea is like as big as running a Nahility with Acheron, honestly. She still can do well with a Bronya option instead, but Sunday just makes her so much better. Which is why it is very much recommended to use whatever team you can run, but especially having Sunday on that team for her. And that is the full build guide for Aglaea. Once again, if you guys found the video helpful, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and tell the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content and guides. And I'll see you later. Peace out.